One of the musical myths that needs to be talked about is this idea that you have to live in a traditional music hub like Los Angeles, Nashville, or New York to be taken seriously as a musician. This has never been less true. Bon Iver, Chance the Rapper, Trent Reznor, the Zac Brown Band are just a few examples of popular artists whose careers did not begin in one of the main music hubs. Now that we're over 20 years in using digital production tools and remote collaboration, we're seeing creatives carving out thriving careers from unexpected locations, proving that you don't need to live in a music capital to make music that has an impact. Today I'm talking with independent producer, engineer, multi-instrumentalist, and singer-songwriter Michael Estok. After studying to be a recording engineer at the Recording Workshop in Chillicothe, Ohio, and then Full Sail University in Winter Park, Florida, Michael moved to Nashville, Tennessee for an internship at Sony ATV Tree Studios. He worked as an independent producer out of his home studio and eventually continued to work with Sony, producing for Sony's artist development team. And then, after 14 years in Nashville, Michael and his wife Emily made the unconventional move from Nashville to Canfield, Ohio, where he built Court Street Recording Studio inside a house, a National Historic House, in fact, built around 1846. Not only has Michael thrived professionally, working with artists both in person and remotely, but his personal life and his community life have also been a big part of what has added up to a well-rounded lifestyle. I think his story will inspire you and help poke some needed holes in the I gotta move to LA, New York, or Nashville myth. Here's my eye-opening conversation with Michael Estok, a great example of how innovation and opportunity can be far beyond the old temples.
Michael, what made you decide to leave a music hub like Nashville for Canfield, Ohio?
Lionel, it was family, pretty much, you know.
Great.
We kind of met some challenges with family and lost my wife's father, and it just made us have a real serious thought process about being closer to immediate family. At that point, our son was only, 2.5, 3 years old, and slightly painful to have left what at that point seemed to be what I was supposed to be doing, right? And it's going on 6.5, 7 years now since we've left the music hub, and there is another world beyond, so.
Well, that's a big point I would like to make on this channel, on this podcast, because I had a lovely lunch yesterday with a friend of ours, Savannah Conley. And I love hearing perspectives outside my own, because we all have lenses. And as someone quite your senior, I don't trust my lens, right? I think our lenses tend to be based on whatever time. For me, it was, having a record deal back in the 90s, for crying out loud, but it still kind of colors how I view things now. And just talking to her, a 27-year-old female artist yesterday, was like, whoa, so much has changed. But I love the whole idea of freeing up people from what I think is a myth that you have to be based in New York, Nashville, or LA. And I just feel like your story gives you a lot to say about that.
Yeah, I'd agree. I found a new level of, feel like, solitude that I needed for creativity's sake, for the life of creativity, and to be, just to have a new healthy creative outlook. For me, so much of my inner being is steeped on just silence and not just being in a traffic jam or being in a big city. It's more being outside, being in a slower pace environment in a country, that type mentality, to where it's funny that the one of the first meetings I had here with another creative person that I met with, I ended up leaving the house almost an hour early to get there because I had the old Nashville mindset of you're going to get in a traffic jam, and I ended up getting there 45 minutes too early. So so I will say, at the end of the day, for me, that was kind of like definitely there's another side to things, especially if the art we're creating is the thing that matters most, then serving that art, I feel like requires, at least for my scenario, it requires the solitude around it and not busyness,
So yeah, I also awesome. Those are all your reasoning. I think you were ahead of the curve. I love reading. Seems like it's been a fairly recent topic to come up in our culture about hustle culture, right?
Yes.
And that it's not the healthiest thing for a well-rounded life. And I feel like your move was so ballsy because I know you and you're a serious musician. This is not a hobby thing for you. This is not, if I have some time left over, I'll try to make some art. I know how serious you are. First of all, as a singer-songwriter, just that. I know you're serious about that, but also as a producer. And then you add a studio owner on top of that. Were you at all, how confident did you feel moving to Canfield, Ohio, that you could make a go of it as not just as a creative, but as a studio owner?
Zero.
Wow.
Really? Zero confidence. Yeah. For me, and this is bad to probably word it this way, but it was the space that I believed in when I first saw it. It wasn't my own ability within the space. It was just the space. I felt like it was a special environment to create in. And I thought, well, if I'm here, it will work. Because I will be a good steward of the space, right?
Yes.
That quickly did happen, but also not so good, because just because you have the space and people are showing up, is that okay? Like, it's feeding your is it feeding your family? Yes, right. But it is just a small portion of of it to say, I don't know what I'm saying, but I had no confidence that I was going to have any sort of, they teach you this in audio school. There's no such thing as job security, right? And so that's what my income is helping other people record their music. There's no such thing as job security. And for the first time that I've been doing it, there was actually job security, So, and, but I realize now that, again, it's funny because I've also said at times, I've kind of found more of my niche, and it's not I have a space to record a lot of players at once. But that's really it's not my niche. And there was a point where I said to my studio manager, who's also my wonderful wife, Emily, I said, well, I moved up here to work with bands and stuff. I said, but it's just not driving it home for me. And she goes, well, she goes, are you making money? And I go, well, yes, we're making money. She goes, well, who cares? That's that, working with singer-songwriters, so that was kind of the thing. But yeah, I had no I had no sort of concrete guarantee that anything would come to fruition. It was mainly, we just had the yearning that we had to be closer to family, and
wow,
we just followed on that,
That's so interesting that you let that personal priorities led the professional outcome.
Yeah.
That's so cool, man. Now you and I have talked about this for years. But it seems like you're hearing more and more about this in the culture, right? About being present as a parent, present in a marriage. And
Yes.
that's where I think you really rolled a 7, so to speak, on that move.
Yeah. It's for me too. Like for us, like my son is now 11, right? And he literally walks to school every day. Like we walk to school.
That's amazing.
So it's just mainly quality of, for me, it was just, like we picked where we picked just due to the potential quality of life we had. People say, how do you make more money? Right. Well, you make more money by spending less. Right. So like for us, we're like, wow, this is a really good school system for our son. And it's a public school system that is amazing, and it's just the cost of living here is for us. It's really, really affordable in Ohio. I'm going to say that, and people hear this and everyone will move to Ohio, but not really, but,
Yeah.
But yeah, I feel like that's kind of what it is, and I look at being quality of life and being able to be present, like my morning routine is walking with my buddy, my son, to school every morning, and come back home, and then I get to work. Like it's a simple for me. It's a simpler mindset than I do think that I had whilst spending time in Tennessee, because I'm like, how's all this going to work? So
that's so beautiful. I really think we're at a time where the way we make livings out of, I don't know, fill in the blank, doing art or whether it's music, whatever, film, whatever, is really changing. And for me, I look back at the old model. Of course, the model I was in is now a long time ago. It's changed 3 or 4 times since then, but you can't look at that model and try to replicate it in today's realities, right?
I have become a firm believer that I don't know what's coming tomorrow.
Mm-hmm.
Things are moving; they're moving rapidly. And they teach us we have to adapt. We have to adapt. Things are moving very, very quickly from a technology standpoint. That, yeah, but I don't say that to sound as if there's doom and gloom involved around that. I'm a huge proponent for now is a better time than ever to make your art. It's simple as that. Make your art, like put a real human thing out into the world,
Michael, how would you, this is another point I really want to stress on this podcast, on this YouTube channel. What would you say to people about taking the burden of your income off the art you make, not relying on the art that you make to pay all your bills?
Yeah, I agree.
Because you work with a lot of people. You work with people who are doing it, who are, I don't even want to use the word full time, who are making their income from it and who do other things to make their income. So you have, I think, a really good vantage point to answer this.
Yes, and I do feel like there's a certain point, even for my own creativity speaking, so forth, that even I have felt at times time to pull back on this as your job, because if this is a project that you're not passionate about, you're using that project that you're not passionate about to make money for your family. But then if you believed in your craft so much and you believed in the art so much, then why are you doing that, right? So me, I'm a huge proponent Do it because you love it. Do what you believe in, right? Do nothing else. The dollar signs, doesn't. It's at the end of the day, man. We get one chance at this thing, and I feel like, I just we get one chance, So the impact gets made when we do what we believe and we do what's within our hearts as far as the creative standpoint goes. Dollar signs, unfortunately, not necessarily attached to it. So much to the point where I was getting creatively burnt out. I will say the past year or so, I'd finally reached the cap on it. There were days I was working 7 days a week, and Emily and I are sitting here going like, oh boy, we weren't expecting this project to go this way, this one to go that way. And you sit there and you go, oh wow, like what is happening, And so, long story short, I made a decision about 6 months ago to take a kind of just a temporary leave of absence from producing. I am still producing, not so much advertising this place as a commercial studio anymore, only taking projects that I would specifically listen to.
Wow.
For the pure satisfaction of it. Because it's all that matters. So you look at that on paper and you're like, well, that's a loss of income. Well, guess what I did? I got a part-time job to make up for that loss of income, so I could be more healthy, right? Like health. I'm serving the people's art that I care about and that I love to work with. I'm serving their art better by being more selective to only work on their art. And for the first time in, that you knew me at the East Nashville house, right? So that would have been 2011. For the first time, I am getting the time to work on my own music, which a great part of me I set to the side to help other people with their music, because that is what a man does to provide for his family, right? So
yes.
So it's been a real gift. And then I can go and I can shut my mind off and still help other people at this part-time job. It's great. I work at a running store, but primarily a lot of our clientele it's not hardcore runners. It's people that come in with injuries that need a good shoe, that, people come in limping and walk out because you take the time with them, like to find a shoe that helps them feel better. So
it sounds like you kind of have a passion for that as well as your art.
It's for me, it's kind of like a mission, like it's, I during COVID, I started running seriously. And for me, I will say it has simply saved my life, simply saved my life. And that's, and I can't say that is good for everybody, but, it has saved my life. From a creative standpoint too, just walking away from it and getting out in nature, it's everything, whether you're walking, hiking, running, just taking a step away. So
it sure sounds to me like, and I've thought this about you for quite a while, that there's a holistic quality to your life. It's, you've shared stories with me about your son, you and Emily, as well as your studio. I don't know. That just sounds like a rich life, as much as people want to do, now I hesitate to use the word art. As much as people want to turn their music into commerce, I'm not sure that always leads to the richest, healthiest life. And no judgment, man. If people are watching and that's what you do and that's what feeds you, that's great. Correct. I'll stand up and applaud you. But
Yes.
I know for me, and I think this is where, Michael, you and I have connected all these years. My family's important to me. Why my marriage is important to me. Our kids are important to us. And it's not because I wasn't passionate about art. And here comes the big question, or the big point maybe. I think it's just as much a creative act to compose a life like you have composed around you, including, you're blowing my mind, to take less music work, take a part-time job, helping people with running shoes, that in itself, like figuring all that out, is incredibly creative, which then gives you space in your head and your heart and your soul to really focus more and make better art, because you're not just doing it for a paycheck.
And that's it. 100%. I will say that music has never mattered more to me.
Wow,
And
that's huge.
That's what this is me. Like it's proof that you have to step away and
Mm-hmm.
I don't tell any future producers, people that went to, recording school, stuff like that. I don't say be super selective about who you work on, because there's a point that you just got to get up and running, right? So I don't want to be that guy that says that, but also be selective. Listen, at the end of the day, if you've taken on a project that pays you really well, but you are not happy with, when that business card goes out into the world, guess whose name is on that project? I don't know. It's one of those things, Hey,
would it be fair to say to up and coming producers, musicians? It's so funny. Yesterday, when I had lunch with Savannah Conley, again, a wonderful young female
she's amazing.
artist. She's amazing. 27 years old. Our waiter says, "Oh, I'm an artist producer." So there's a lot of people, and a lot of it's because of the democratization, right?
Yes.
The technology. And I love that, because listen, I grew up in a time when getting in the studio was almost impossible because of the price barrier, the equipment barrier, the knowledge, all of that.
Let's not forget too, like the super olden days where they were in lab coats, right? Here we are sitting in our little bedrooms, It's amazing.
I think a point to pick up on something you said, just to take maybe some pressure off some young up and comers who are, I'm a huge Billie Eilish, Phineas fan.
Yeah,
the fact that they made those records in the bedroom was,
mind blowing.
I remember saying that, maybe even in a conversation with you, that someday somebody's going to make a really popular record out of their bedroom. Well, that's now old news. But would you say, Michael, I think this is a point worth checking out, that you arrived when you said you got to get up and running. There is a time, I would think maybe early on in you getting established, when you do have to pay the bills to keep the lights on, right? Absolutely. You know what I'm trying to get at? I want to kind of give somebody a break out there that's like, dang, I'm doing everything I can just to keep the lights on.
And you do have to go through those. I do believe you do have to go through those trenches, because you find we tend to call them red flags for potential clients that we work with. Is this person a red flag? Are there red flags there? Meaning that simply you're just not a great creative fit. And that doesn't make them wrong. That does not make you right. That does not make them right. And that does not make you wrong, right? It's finding the people that work the same way. I work differently than probably Rick Rubin works, right? Like I work differently
Absolutely.
than you work. Like, it doesn't mean that it's so long story short, you have to take on a lot of projects that you just look at as potential work, because it's going to help you learn the way you work. So
I love that point, that as much as I've loved Rick Rubin's book, and as much as I'm one of your biggest fans. I've just followed your story even before you left Nashville, and when you again made that ballsy move, which has turned out to be a genius move. But it's definitely a warning to any. Don't feel like you're going to copy somebody else's path, because you're not.
that path's already been been buffed out. It's already been done, you know?
Yeah. My first interview for this was with Charlie McCoy, who's, if I look at his path, starting in 1960,
yes,
playing on Roy Orbison records, playing bass and session leader on Bob Dylan records.
I mean, right, stuff that he wasn't even really, in his mind, he didn't think he was well versed on, right?
He had no idea. In fact, he came to Nashville and played Chuck Berry songs, auditioning for Chet Atkins and Owen Bradley. That's what he wanted to do, till he went to a session that afternoon. They invited him and he saw the session players. He said, that's what I want to do. But if I look at a trajectory like that, I can, I heard a great phrase this past year, man. I think I heard Mark Maron say it: compare and despair. I love that.
Ooh.
Isn't that a good one?
I like that. Yeah, I've not heard that one. Yeah.
Yeah, like you and I have talked a lot about one of your favorite songs, God Only Knows, by the Beach Boys. And didn't you go out to that studio in California this past year?
I got to stand in the room. Yes.
Wow.
And thank you to those. I mean, thank you to they were so kind to us out there. I emailed studio management out there, and just they were so accommodating to us, which they didn't have to be. I said, do you want me to leave? Do you want me to leave my 11-year-old and my wife in the lobby? And Keith, just a great guy. No, bring them on the tour too. You know, so
that's beautiful.
Yeah, wonderful.
And as much as you and I are enamored and in awe of those chapters in music history, if we try to base our story on that, I mean, we're kind of screwed, because it ain't going to happen again. That's already happened. We're in a radically different chapter.
100%. Yep.
Hey, I'm curious about what things happened, man. I mean, you moved to a small town in Ohio.
Mm-hmm.
Did you network? Was the fact that you're kind of in the same region as Cleveland, Pittsburgh, even Detroit, what happened to allow you to become so successful at this?
It's funny because, I mean,
did you stay in the mix with? I'm super curious about that.
Yeah, I think I still had some overlapping stuff from Tennessee post move that at least got me up and running, and then we had a buddy of mine, one of my closest friends now, lives literally a couple streets away. I put up an Instagram, and the first guy I met while I was returning the rental truck was a drummer in a local band, and they're like, "Why are you moving back here from Nashville?" And they're like, most people were moving to Nashville. And then we got to talking, and that was actually the guy that I had coffee with that day that I showed up way too early. Was in a really kind of like a prominent band around here called the Vindies, which that band and I were still working together, and they're actually crushing it right now. The first guy I met while I was returning the rental truck was a drummer in a local band, and they're like, "Why are you moving back here from Nashville?" And they're like, most people were moving to Nashville. And then we got to talking, and that was actually the guy that I had coffee with that day that I showed up way too early. was in a really kind of like a prominent band around here called the Vindies, which that band and I were still working together, and they're actually crushing it right now. But long story short, put up an Instagram, and one of my closest friends, Angelo Lamarca, that I'm playing drums in a band for, another close friend of mine, Rick Blair, he reaches out to me and says, "Hey, I see you have a studio. Can I come and see the studio?" He goes, "I'm literally 2 streets away." So came over, and yeah, it's just wild. People are walking to my studio. Like it's weird. Like even Jackie and Rick from the Vindies, like they live 2 blocks down. We didn't know this,
Right.
Long story short, we had an open house. At that point, we invited all the local people that we had gotten to know. So we had an open house of about 80 musical people here, and that's all we did. Like we don't, I'm not the kind of person to try to advertise myself,
Right.
But yeah, so that the rest is kind of history. It's just been great,
I think it's interesting that you said when you first saw the space, and am I right that the space when you first saw it was a swimming pool area?
Yeah, yeah, right over my shoulder was where the swimming pool was. So,
That's wild.
Matter of fact, we found the house, and it has a separate guest house, just right off the main house, and we I thought, well, maybe we'll put the studio in there. And then when we were still living in Nashville, our realtor did a phone tour for us, and she went into this room, which is the live room, and I was like, "Oh, we don't need a swimming pool. We do not need an indoor swimming pool. Like we just." And the previous owner said it was costing them roughly around $400 to $450 a month to maintain just the pool, And so,
right.
When we finally got to see it in person, post move from Nashville here, because it was still sitting on the market, no one would buy it. It's just it's a peculiar place. As far as a single family home, doesn't make sense, right?
Wasn't it like a historical house or something?
Yeah, we're actually on the National Historic Registry. Yeah, it's
that's wild. You're living in a house that's on the historical registry.
Yep, it's built in 1846, and then this wing was put on in the 60s as like a therapeutic pool for like the third owner at that time. But Emily and I both walked into here, and I did not say anything. And I go, I don't want the studio in the guest house, which good thing we didn't, because there's actually codes that we're not allowed to make money off the guest house.
I see.
Old code from like the late 1800s. It's still in effect. Our town's a little bit slow to kind of catch up with the times sometimes. We tried to Airbnb it at one point and got a cease and desist from zoning, and we won't go down that path and talk about that. But long story short, Emily and I both saw this, and I didn't say anything. And I go, in my mind, I'm thinking, this is where the studio needs to be. And I finally mustered up the courage, to convince her. And she goes, I think that's a brilliant idea. And so it wasn't easy. We had to decide what to do with the pool. So we framed it in, and it's 2x10s, just like a floor with a bunch of joists. That way, if we ever had to reverse it, we could reverse it, But yeah, it's a find, it's an interesting find of a facility for sure.
I don't want to get too magical talking, but it's just remarkable how you find this house. The guy in the Vindies lives 2 blocks away. I mean, and you did not know that. That's pretty remarkable.
It's funny. I remember when we first moved in, about a month or so of us living here, and Rick from the Vindies walked by the front of our house, and I just looked. I go, that guy looks like a musician. Which is like, here's me profiling people as musicians based off their appearances, which is not good, But sure enough, that was Rick. Yeah. Like, what are the chances of that, So,
Wow.
So fast forward to us being here and us picking up a little bit of traction. Ed, the drummer from the Vindies at the time, said, listen to this recording I did in Cleveland. And he pulled it up, and it was for a guy named Markley Shannon. And Markley Shannon was in Michael. I don't know if Michael Stanley rings a bell to you or not. He's since passed away. But Cleveland-based artist. And this recording blew my mind. And I go, Ed, who recorded that? Where did you get this done? And he told me. Superior Sound, Jim Stewart. And I go, wow. Well, this guy, theoretically, he's an hour away from me. This guy, I could view this as two different ways. This guy is my competitor, or this guy is my comrade, right? Like, simple as that. And so Ed goes, dude, yeah, I'll get you his info. So I reached out to Jim, and I said, hey, man, I heard what you did with like Ed, and my mind is blown by your production, by your talent. I said, this is just like, I cannot believe you're an hour away. I was like, do you want to go meet in the middle and grab lunch? So I went, had lunch with Jim, and to this day, Jim and I are like, I cannot begin to tell you how our relationship. He's one of my dear people. He's one of my safe places, my sounding boards for anything that I'm going through for the studio, anything that he's going through for his situation. It's just been an utter blessing to my life and being here. So much that he did a podcast with Liz Shaw, which is an East Nashville based guy. He goes by Recording Rock Stars. And so when Jim finished that podcast, he goes, you need to talk to Michael. And so I did a podcast with Liz, which is funny because if I was still living in Nashville, Liz probably would have never, ever come to me and said, hey, man, would you be up for doing a podcast? You know what I mean?
Wow.
It's because I'm here. It's because I'm here, in the work that I've done post that, I feel like it's more what I do, And
wow.
So it's been a massive blessing. And then my primary client heard that podcast and lives about 50 minutes away from me here in North Canton. He goes by the name of the satellite station, Travis Rue. And about 5 years ago, he reached out to me and said, I'm about to write a ton of songs, and I heard you on this podcast, and I can't believe you're this close. He goes, can I come meet with you? Can we talk about potentially working together? And I said, yes. And so Travis and I have done together a song a month for the past 5 years. And
wow.
He just I have seen him grow so much. It's crazy. Every month we have a SoundCloud that we go through with a short list, and there's at any given time there's 50 songs within that short list that we have to sift through to pick which one we want to go ahead and produce,
Wow.
So, and I told him, I said, Travis, I said, if you want to make it go with this, you treat it like you're going to the gym, and you write and you write and you write and you write. And he literally would write, he'd give me a song every week. Every week he'd send me a new voice memo of a completed song. And so at this point, I think he's got probably 100 some songs just sitting there. And, and at that point, when you can be that prolific and that dedicated to just the craftsmanship of writing the song, you get to choose, right? His hard-earned money that he's spending to come work with me, he's getting to choose to throw it at what we both feel is the best thing that we can throw it at. Therefore, ensuring that he's getting the most bang for his buck for the money that he's spending. I tell people, I've said this to many people, just because you wrote a song does not mean you should spend money with me or anybody else to record it for that matter. Make sure it's a song that you are very, very happy with,
Yes.
and make sure the person that's going to do the work with you as your teammate, make sure it resonates with them too. Because if it doesn't, what are you spending your money for,
Right. Do you like what's your ratio these days, Michael? Well, maybe I should have asked this before, a few months ago, but how much of what you do is in person and how much is remote?
I would say 50-50. 50-50.
Wow.
Yeah,
Wow.
50-50. Because there are still bands that I am working with because they get the way that I like to work and I believe in them as a band, right?
Right.
So those ones, obviously, those are mostly attended sessions. And then but mostly my weeks are just it's still like we'll do one day attended, and then the singer songwriter goes about their week, and then I'm giving them a delivered product by the end of the week with me having added the instrumentation and production to it, so I would say 50-50. Yeah, 50-50. I joke that I'm not a people person, so like I need my alone time with music to work on it, but it's funny, all the people that work with me, they're the same, like they get that, so, and I'm generally like, I'm a very outgoing person. I wear my colors on my sleeves. I'm always smiling. I'm always happy, but it's, I'm not the person to be in the studio at 9 a.m. and then finish a session at 11 o'clock at night. You'll see me go down I get grumpy. So
That's fair. That's fair. I love that because I find I like that too. I like being with a group, but then I like a time by myself to really zone in on something, on parts, whatever instrument that may be. And man, I look back, Michael, at the way we used to make records. And this was more of a Nashville thing. This wasn't a rock thing, but we would do it in 3-hour increments, as you know, because I know you had days at Sony where
a lot would get done in a little bit of time.
Totally.
Wow.
And man, there's a place for that. There is a place for that. I celebrate.
That's also a testament to the players, though, that are in Tennessee that ever was able to happen like that.
Totally. So Charlie McCoy, who I interviewed, said one of the things that separated Nashville early on was they unionized it. They made it a 3-hour session, which was brilliant. They established this business model. We're talking 1960, 1959, 1961. But I've also been a fan. There's an add-on to that, though, that I remember reading about Chet Atkins as a producer who produced a ton of stuff for RCA before he became the head of RCA. And they would cut the tracks, and he would take the tape home where he had a multi-track and work on parts at his house, which I so get that because
he was doing what we do, right?
Totally. I've just learned that, and maybe it's because I'm not as fast as the A team in Nashville, but I like the results I get when I have time to really focus on parts. And yes, I'll speak for myself. I can get perfectionistic about it and I got to cut it off. But I hear what you're saying. There's something good about both, about having a bunch of people in a room, but then right?
Yeah, and go ahead. You finish what you were going to say. I had a thought. Go ahead.
I want to hear your thoughts on that more because I think,
I was going to say, actually unplugging from all of your gear and taking what you have. Like, so for me, I've got 32 channels worth of Apollos, got a console, have all that, but I'm on a MacBook Pro. It's all going into my MacBook Pro at the end of the day. And my biggest saving grace is that I can unplug my MacBook Pro, and thank you, Universal Audio, for finally making your plugins so I don't have to be tethered to my Apollos, right? But my biggest gains come, I'm confident enough in my capturing skills now to where I know what I'm getting, but leaving the environment that I capture from and working in a different environment, for me, it's the only way I can achieve results. It's where I'll comp a vocal. It's where I'll do intonation on stuff if I have to. It's where I do all my edits. And sometimes I'm on just my MacBook Pro speakers. Sometimes I'm on headphones, I have different places I know in the house that sound bassier than the others. If I'm, like it's the wildest thing, but it really gives you a chance to have multiple perspectives, to not be solely in that environment where you're trying to do the capture itself. I feel like. So totally. For me, it's been a game changer. Like I cannot be solely tethered to just these two rooms. I can't. I can't.
That's really telling, because obviously we even see behind you there. I mean, you have a gorgeous, big room that you can do. You could do whatever you want, I would think, in that room. But for you to say there's still value in detaching from that, that's a strong statement.
Yep.
Wow. Well, we've talked a lot about the fact that you're in Canfield, Ohio, that it's enabled you to basically have a life beyond just working in the studio, to have a marriage, to be a very present parent. But even still, how do you go about that balance, that even if you're in Canfield, you still have to figure out, how am I going to balance work and my personal life? What kind of decisions has that looked like for you?
Oh man, that's a tricky one, because I do feel like it is one of the things that I feel like I'm comfortable with, but it's just mainly based off of I feel like I've just gotten more efficient within the studio, where some of the things that I used to get hung up on, I've just cast them away. And
such as,
just, is this mix good enough? Is this perfect enough? It's like, no, at the end of the day, it's like, if you're working on it, and maybe that comes with age and maturity. I don't know, but I guess I care less, and I have less fear about. It used to be a mortifying experience for me at the end of every week when I would be working with a singer-songwriter, because they're coming to me with their creation, their baby, their child of a song, right? And
yes,
it is my job to, if they're only playing one instrument, whether it be an acoustic guitar vocal or say they're a piano vocalist, I am framing everything else. Like that was all on me, right? So I don't take that lightly, but I think at the end of every week it was crippling for me, because so much of my being, I put stake in, does this mean am I good enough? And I think just the repetition of it over and over again, and closed out enough projects, hundreds of songs every year at this point. And it's like, you learn to just trust in the workflow. And so for me, that has led to efficiency. And I will say that is what truly allows me to balance my life. I look at now, sometimes what it takes me to mix a song versus what it used to take me to mix a song. It's just because I trust in the movements that I'm making more now. And I don't ask, well, would someone else do this better? It's like, no, I'm realizing that they're coming to me for a reason. It's not that they want my mix to sound like Chad Blake's mix or Chuck Ainley's mix. They're coming to me because they want it to sound like Michael Estok's mix, right? Like that's right. And that's kind of like, I think confidence and efficiency is what has led me to have more time doing the things that I like to do, because that frees up time,
So, yes.
I hope that answered that. I don't know if it did or not, but
no, that's a big part of it. I want to ask one more question following that up. Experience, confidence, repetition. I love that word. I believe in repetition. But even when you first opened Court Street, because obviously you were a parent then, you had a marriage then. Have you?
Correct. Yeah.
And I know. I'm several years your senior. I'm not ready to go full Rick Rubin, nor I'm at the success place that he's at. He works 4 to 5 to 6 hours a day, then that's it. But did you establish, I guess this is what I'm trying to ask, Michael, did you establish any time boundaries before you had the confidence you had now, before the repetition led to this level of expertise? And I'm thinking of that 30-year-old out there that has a 2-year-old daughter and is married,
right,
and is passionate about doing this. What advice would you give to that person at that stage, at that early stage, so that they're not spending 100 hours a week?
Yeah. You have to set boundaries. And yes, the answer to your question is simply yes for that. And I do accredit Nashville for me having that, because we know how the session works. The 10 a.m. downbeat, right? And we're done at 4 or 5. That's it, right? So I did set boundaries. I tell people that I'm pretty much creatively done after 4. I try not to work on the weekends. If there's, a lot of times, when we get someone coming in from out of town, we will have to make an exception for a Saturday or a Sunday. No big deal. We work around that. Yeah. But I tell people, I said, the earlier we get started, the better for me. Obviously I don't want to start at 6 a.m, but yeah, you have to set time boundaries. Absolutely. And you have to have a Sabbath, man. You have to take a day without a day with silence, and without work. Simple as that,
Wow.
And it's not always that simple, because it's just not practical a lot. Mm-hmm. But I'm trying to be more intentional about that. And
I feel like
it's helped.
I feel like, having known you all these years, I feel like you, and I would even include myself in this, conversations that we had before you moved to Nashville, but I felt like you were sensitive. Again, I know this is tricky because we're so passionate about making our art and helping other people make art that we believe in. But I feel like you and I both were determined not to become workaholics. We've seen enough cautionary tales on that, right?
Yeah. And 100%. And that's for me, a crucial part of it is working. And you may have heard me say this before, but the art of walking away from something is every much as crucial as the art of creating something, in my mind. So, but I'll take it one step further. I guess I'm writing my own rules right now. Here's my rule book. The art of walking away, but you walk away when you are content with it. You don't walk away after you've ruminated on it and started to get negative thoughts about something. Is this okay? Is this decent? Is it bad? Is it good even, right? No, you walk away when you're like, this is sweet. I am stoked about this. It is time I'm giving myself 5 more minutes of being like this, and I'm going to walk away. And that way, when you come back to it, you're excited. And so for me, walking away is going out for a run. It's going out for a walk. It's going out. It's getting fresh air. It's pausing. Simple as that. So
this is so good, man. I'm such a believer in what you're saying, and a lot of that has been hard won. from being on the verge of workaholism, earlier periods. But it just is. And my wife Cindy would often tell me, "I think you need to walk away. I think you need to give yourself a break." I'm like, "No, I got to."
Yeah.
She was so right. I think you're so right that.
There's a level of of rumination that can happen if you're just caught in this feedback loop of
Definitely.
of a tired creative scenario. If you're fatigued in a scenario, right?
Man.
So fatigue. That's what I would say. When you're fatigued, you don't walk away from it. You walk away from it when you're when you still have the energy.
Yes. I remember Michael being at a rehearsal one night, and our friend John Conley was playing guitar on it, and we had to learn. We had to learn it was 17 songs. We were getting ready to do this event the next night, so we were on, I think, song 14 or 15, and everybody was getting pretty crispy. And the next day was the show, so we needed to have it. He said, "Lionel, could we run these last two tomorrow? We'll get more done tomorrow in 10 minutes than we will tonight in the next hour."
Yes.
He was so right. Spot on.
That is exactly it. That is, yep. That's spoken from a man who's been there doing it the other way, having to do it the other way,
Totally.
That's it.
Totally. Well, man, I love your story, Michael, and I love you too. And our friendship goes back several years.
Yeah.
But I truly am a fan of your story, and I've referred to you so many times when I'm talking to other musicians who, whether they feel like they need to move, whether they feel like they need to get another job to keep actually doing their art, which a lot of times I think is the most creative decision they can make. But I'd kind of like to wrap this up by, what would you say? We've kind of touched on this a little bit, but, if we both had a friend that's watching this, listening to this, what advice would you give? And I know we don't have a crystal ball, and I still think more than ever, when you said there's no job security, but oh my goodness, Michael, with AI and the technology being what it is. But I saw a great video today of Leonard Bernstein saying there will always be music. Music's not going anywhere because as human beings, we're always going to want music. And I think we're always going to want new, fresh music. So I think there's a place to keep making art. But based on your experience, what would you say to that 18, 20, 22-year-old that's out there and just really loving, whether it's on a laptop or in a studio, it's that desire, like you taste it and like, man, I would love to do this more and make more art. What you got any words of advice, here in 2024 going forward?
Yeah, I do. I think, not to go, don't want to go down a rabbit hole this late in the game in this conversation, but with AI per se, it's gotten pretty advanced in a short period of time, and I think there will be a time in the future where it's built into video software for people that are looking for music for a specific scene and, generate music for this scene and there the song will be. And well, there's no songwriter you have to worry about. There's no pro you have to worry about at that point, right? Hopefully that's not the case. But long story short, I've heard some pretty crazy instances of the AI stuff as of recently, but the thing that it can't fake human intricacies, man. It just can't. It can't. And I think so. My advice for any artist is do not be scared to sound human, and quit making everything so perfect. To me, it's kind of freeing to have AI because it's like, no, we don't have to be like that because that is perfect.
Yes.
Stop being so loud. Stop printing your recordings so loud. Stop tuning everything so much. leave artifacts, leave mistakes, like it just be human, But that again is mainly a stylistic thing on my end that I try to live by, But I will say it's something that I've had to unlearn because like we've all subscribed to how loud is your master, how loud is, that kind of stuff. But now is not the time. Just make what you want to make and yeah, make sure it's competitively loud, but like just be you and let yourself be heard as a human being, So, and that's for upcoming producers too, My challenge would be to not make everything, unless you're working on an EDM track or a pop smash hit, right? But even that stuff, I'm like, let's put more humanity into that, So I don't know. That's just an opinion. That's all that is. So,
well, I think there's a strong verdict, and that verdict is in on some. We could go down a long list of artists that are incredibly human. Their recordings sound,
yes,
incredibly human, and not all of them, but a lot of them.
I'm seeing a change in even the pop stuff. You're starting to hear. You're starting to hear more organic parts in there.
I think you raise a good point in that AI could actually be a friend to more organic music because it'll make it stand out all the more.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So we can complain. We can complain about it, but I don't know. I see it as a clear line drawn in the sand. It's like, man, I don't have to worry about that being that anymore because I'm human, So
totally. I love that. Well, man, thanks for your time and thanks for sharing your mind and your heart, your experience. I think it'll really give some insight to people out there, especially up and comers, asking those big questions. Do I move to New York or LA or Nashville? Because there's a lot to navigate in a creative life. But yours is so inspiring. So thank you so much, man.
Much love, dude.
I love stories like this. I think Michael and Emily's move from Nashville to Canfield, Ohio, ended up not being a retreat, but an advance. So much for the myth that says, I have to live in a music town to make legitimate music. I have to make all my income from my music to be a real musician. If what I'm doing doesn't make me famous, it's not worth doing. Michael leaned on his strengths, set himself apart from the fray, and in so doing, opened up opportunities outside of the bottleneck of a music industry town. Opportunities that were more organic and more conducive to a life that included his role as a husband, a father, a friend. I hope this story encourages you, especially if these myths become reasons or even excuses for you not to embrace your creative expression, whatever that is. Thanks for jumping in with me. Now, please, go make something.